You're listening to the Fezcast, produced on behalf of the Saracen Supporters Association and featuring the independent thoughts, rants and rambles of Saracens fans and special guests. If you'd like your opinion to be heard on the show, you can find the Fezcast on Facebook or Fezcast_SSA on Instagram and whatever Twitter is known as these days. But for now, enjoy this week's show.
You're listening to the Fezcast.
Well, hello everybody and welcome to the next edition of the Fezcast. And joining me tonight is Matt and Barry to discuss last week's rugby news and everything that goes on. But first of all, got to make an apology. Karen Wright, regular listener, did point out that last week she enjoyed the show, but we never talked about Saracens Mavericks after giving them the full beans after their Wembley game, and we never previewed the Saracens women's semi-final against Exeter. So my bad, you know, I blame the senior researcher and editor. That's me last week, wasn't it, I think, Matt?
I think it was, yeah. I'm not going to claim too much blame for it, but yeah, sorry everyone. We do we do this very part-time voluntarily, so we are going to make mistakes, but yeah, we should do it. What we should say is the Mavericks are playing as we speak at the moment, so there'll be a reason we don't talk them about again this week, because we've got no idea what's going on.
No, well, yeah. Did you say it's possibly about half-time, whatever? We'll pick up on that at a later time. But yeah, I mean, as well, we should have previewed Saracens women, Barry. We didn't do so. Probably going to let Matt talk more about this one, and we'll move on to that now. But seemed like it was a bit of a indiscipline fest, wasn't it, guys?
Yeah, I think so. Judging by the comments and what have you seen, it was it 4 yellow cards, Matt?
It's 4 to us, yeah. It was 4-3 in the end. Saracens to Exeter. So yeah, not only did we eventually win on the scoreboard, we also won the yellow card competition as well. I think Exeter at one point were down to 12. I think we made it to 13. I don't think we quite made it any lower than that. But yeah, it was certainly a scrappy contest. And to be honest, I think credit does need to go to the referee because he was pretty fair about it. I think when you get that many yellow cards in the game, you start to look at it and wonder what exactly is going on. But he set his stall out very early. Both teams got a talking to, and they never really learned from what the referee was saying. Most of the penalties that were given away were for players not rolling away. He was quick to ping it, but he was quick to ping it for both sides. And that is why at least 4 of the yellow cards happened. But yeah, one of those things.
Well, I suppose that's the thing, isn't it? And you've got to put that responsibility onto the players and the coaching staff, really, to get a hold of it and say, no, we need to be an awful lot better. I suppose looking at the way that the scoring went, Matt, it was Saracens took advantage of that and got into a big lead. That allowed them perhaps to be a little bit more indisciplined and yellow cards because they had enough of a lead to hold on to.
I think we'll hear in a bit, but the girls were very disappointed, really, with how the second half went. I think we didn't really expect Exeter to be as poor as they were in the first half, and we certainly came out the blocks firing. It was probably the best first half, certainly that cup side has put together all season, really. And then, yeah, we just sort of felt the pressure a little bit from Exeter, and it was the senior players that were getting carded as well, and you know, just about got over the line, really, which is a bit of a shame. And I know they had a bit of a talking to at full time, but yeah, they built up enough of a lead and looked fairly comfortable with it. But yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you've alluded there to something that we've got coming up now. And, you know, before we talk about that, just to say a final down in Bristol does seem a bit weird why they can't play games at neutral grounds when it comes to big finals and everything. That's just, I don't know how that works. But, yeah, Matt, you had a chat with a player who's soon to retire, haven't you?
I have, yeah. I mean, on the location for the final, it's because it is the cup and the attendance is, let's face it, they're not that good. Neutral venues probably don't really work for that. So it is the side that wins their semi-final by the biggest margin that gets a home final. So I do kind of see why they do it that way. And it is a shame that it's not being played at the Stonex for the last game, because it could potentially be the last time we see Sonia Green run out on the pitch after 330 billion appearances over 22 years. Fortunate enough to have a chat with her post-match, and a lot of credit has got to go to her, really, because I think she was basically cramping up while she was sitting there with me, so we did cut it short in the end. But yeah, it was absolutely fantastic to speak to her. Hopefully everyone enjoys hearing from her now.
Oh, the effects you have on people, Matt. Well, let's play that in now, shall we? And hear from the club legend that is Sonic.
You're listening to the Fezcast.
You are listening to the Fezcast, which is proudly sponsored by the Saracens Supporters Association, and I'm Alison Davis, one of the SSA committee. For a £10 annual subscription, the SSA provides our members with monthly newsletters, virtual and in-person player events, away match ticket allocations, and we organise pre-match gatherings at away matches. We sponsor men's and women's players, and we support the Saracens Foundation Track Club on behalf of our members. On top of all that, every year we have a seasonal SSA badge, which is exclusive to members. Where else can you get that much value for a tenner? Join now at membermojo.co.uk/SSA, or come and see us on match day in the Oasis at the Stonex.
This is the Fezcast.
We overused the word legend this season, especially having spoken to Maggie Alfonsi at the start of the season. But I think it's definitely appropriate here. After 22 years, I think it is, and over 300 Saracens appearances, Sonia Green is retiring from rugby, and very pleased to say she's sitting right in front of me now. Welcome to the Fezcast, Sonia. Really appreciate you coming along. How are you, first off?
Very sore after that game. I didn't expect to get a full 80, I think 79 minutes I got, but very sore. I'm going to feel that tomorrow. I mean, any cup semi is going to be tough, but against Exeter, we knew they were going to bring it to us.
I mean, big question first off, actually. We're into a final. Have you got another game left in you?
Yeah, definitely. I don't know if you saw when I was coming off, I was like putting my finger up with one more, and everyone was like, is that one more season? I was like, no, definitely not. Definitely not. Game. Yeah, one more game, at least. Yeah.
But we do have to talk about the match, and it was it's a pretty bizarre one, I think, really. We won on the scoreboard, we won on yellow cards in the end as well. Let's just talk about the first half first. 31-0 at half time, and came out the blocks rapidly.
Yeah, I think the best bit about the first half for us is that we stuck to our processes, everything that we've been working on. We were mixing up the line-outs, working on everything we've done in scrums. They were going our way. The backs were firing, our defence, like we were taking it to. Every part of the game was working, and we smothered them. When we went in at half time, we all said how calm we felt, but we also knew they were going to come back at us. But like you said, a bit of a cliche, game of two halves. Our defence in the second half wasn't good enough, and our discipline wasn't good enough. So
that's fair enough. I mean, we expected Exeter to come out firing in the second half. Really, that's not the Exeter that we've seen previously, and quite a strong side out as well. So I think still full credit to getting over the line as well, and with some young players out there. The experience of the likes of yourself and Lottie, did you have a lot to say in that second half, or was it just trusting the process?
We've got a lot of experienced players, obviously, not just myself and Lottie, but having Bryony Khalil back, we've got May there, who was also co-captain, Leanne coming off the bench, one of the most experienced players on the team, and I think that's what got us the win. That's what, when we managed to hold them out. It's great for the younger players to be put under that pressure. I mean, you learn, don't you, so much from losing, and we lost that second half. Yeah. But that's going to put us in a really good position in 2 weeks' time against whether it's Bristol or Gloucester, whoever wins tomorrow. Let's just hope we've won by more points than we get the home final. That would be ideal.
Yeah, that would be good. Yeah, obviously we don't know the result of that yet, but fingers crossed a home final would be fantastic and a great way for you to finish up. But yeah, moving on to yourself. First, it's a 35th anniversary for Saracens Women, and you've been at the forefront of quite a lot of that. I mean, it's a really hard question to put to you. It's probably the widest question possible, but just put into words how much it's meant to you just to be part of that history and the growth of Saracens women.
I just feel very fortunate, very privileged to have seen the game grow, to be part of a very special club. You know, we're the only club that's been in the forefront of women's rugby from the very start. You know, it's obviously really sad what's happened with clubs like Wasps and Worcester, but yeah, it's just a really privileged position to have been at a club that it's not just about women's rugby but women's sport, and the support that they've given myself and players. You know, if it wasn't for Saracens, I wouldn't have had an international career. If it wasn't for the support that goes on behind the scenes, there's no way I would have had, my body would have lasted 22 years. You know, people say how, and yeah, it's a lot of hard work, but it's also because of the support that the club give us that enables players to be at that very top level. So that's why we've got lots of players here that have been here for a significant period of time. So yeah, I feel very, I don't know if that answered your question. I
think
hope
it does,
so.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's, like I said, it's a bit of an unfair question, really, because we could be talking for an hour and a half about something like that. But I mean, we've only been doing this show for 4 years. Saracens women have been playing here at in Barnet for eight years, I think, maybe.
Yeah, we've been here from the start, so I think this is the 10th, 11th season that we've been here at Barnet, and it has gone quickly, and it's been very different. Obviously, the first 10, 12 years I had at Bramley Road, so then moving here to this stadium, which, I mean, there's been a lot of change since we've been here as well, but do you know what? Although there's been change, it's still the heart of what Saracens, who we are, and the values that we have at the club. That hasn't changed at all from the very beginning to now, to today, and that will stay forever.
Yeah. I mean, we've seen firsthand just doing this show just how quickly it's grown, even in the last 5 years or so. So yeah, it's testament to that. But part of that, we've interviewed so many of our players now, and it's pretty consistent when we do ask some of the younger players who their role models are within the squad. Many of them do say you, even backs. And a lot of that is they talk about your consistency and your willingness to encourage other players coming forward. I mean, I have no idea where I'm going with this now.
Well, I know that I'm not the best player on the pitch. I never have been. I've always said that. I'm not the most skillful player. You know, I'm not going to be the best player in the line-out or the best tackler, all of that. But what I hope I've brought to the club, and I hope I'm, like you said about being a role model to the younger players, it's about work rate. It's about, you know, I'll make that last-ditch tackle. It might not look the prettiest, but I'll be there in training. You know, I've known that I'm not going to play every game this season. I started the season knowing that I was going to play cup, might cover some Prem games, but I knew that I would be at every training session, which I have been, and I will be there, out there with the girls, pushing the youngsters, giving them a good run for their money. I loved it the last couple of weeks with our GPS data, and I've covered the most ground in the last two sessions. I'm like, I hope the youngsters are looking at that and going, she's double my age, she's old enough to be my mum, but she's running further than me. So yeah, that's kind of been my role this season.
And is that sort of what's kept you going over the last couple of years, just trying to keep beating everyone else coming through?
Definitely.
That's fair enough.
And because if I do that, I know that I'm making the team better, and that's what I said to Alex. That's what I said to the coaches. So yeah, that's what keeps driving me.
That's fair enough. And I was going to say the next thing for you is actually what you're doing at the moment. Anyway, is as vice principal of the Saracens High School, which is another fantastic venture. Again, you're part of the furniture at Saracens. You're not going anywhere, but just talk to us about the school, because it's not something we've been able to cover on the show very much.
I mean, again, you've got all day. So,
yes.
I mean, a lot of people keep saying to me, so what are you going to do when you retire? I was like, just have one full-time job rather than two full-time jobs. So yeah, I'm obviously very proud of what we have built at the high school. You know, we're serving the local community. Lots of people say, "Oh, you're a rugby school or a private school." Literally, we're 7 minutes around the corner. We're on Colindale, on the Graham Park estate. There were actually lots of the kids who were here today. Actually, it was really nice to see them. They were asking me to come and watch they've got a game in a couple of weeks. I'm really sorry. We've got the final that day, so I can't come. Bless them. But it's we've been open now 6 years. We've got our sixth form going, so we've got with year 7 through to next year 13. We've got 2 primary schools coming on board. hopefully in the future we'll have more secondary schools. And it's just, well, I would always encourage anyone to come and visit us. It's just about the values. Everything we do here at the club, we mirror it at the high school. So it's focusing on those values. If you live those values, you'll be successful in life. If you perform well, then the results will come. If you do the same at the school, then the qualifications will come. So yeah, I'm very, very proud of it. I always say to people, come and see what we're doing.
Absolutely, should do.
Yeah.
So, what does next year look like?
Well, I've already started CrossFit and I've just qualified for the quarterfinals. So I said,
busy then.
Yeah, like after the first week, I finished like 56th in the country in my age group. So I finished a little bit lower than that, but still I've qualified. I said, let's see how today goes. If we don't win, then I might enter the next round. But I think I need to focus on the final in the next couple of weeks. So yeah, next year, that's definitely. I'm really enjoying it.
There's a few of you going into CrossFit. Actually, next we spoke to Vicky Fleetwood at the end of last season.
I mean, she's incredible.
Frightening,
I'm
really,
not at her level at all. And there's a couple of ex-players, Charlie Hatt, they set up a CrossFit gym in Watford a few years ago when they retired. So I've been to their gym, like Kat Evans, she was here for years. She's just started CrossFit as well. So yeah, I think it's very transferable skills, like pushing your body to the absolute limits. So maybe a bit of CrossFit, but just like enjoying life, like being able to say yes to things, like being able to go to, I don't know, weddings and birthday parties and going away in my camper van, like those actually living a little bit and not constantly having to think, well, I can't eat that and I can't do that because I've got to be at rugby. So yeah.
Well, I'm hopefully speaking on behalf of plenty of Saracens fans saying that it's been an absolute privilege to watch you play over the last few years. Fantastic career. I hope you're going out with total positivity over it. Thank you very much for everything you've done for Saracens.
I just hope everyone can come to the cup final, but also we hope we make a Prem final as well in a couple of months' time. So yeah, it'd be great to see all of you there.
Absolutely. We're not quite done yet, but we'll let you enjoy the rest of your day. I know you definitely need to get off and celebrate a little bit. Thank you very much, Sonia. Really appreciate it.
Cheers. Thanks.
You're listening to the Fezcast.
Hi, Alex Osterbury here, Director of Rugby for Saracens Women. You're listening to the Saracens Fezcast.
This is the Fezcast.
Well, welcome back, and thanks again to Sonic for chatting to Matt there. Brilliant little chat there, Matt, discussing the game, as you expect from a player like Sonia. Very honest and very insightful into what's going on, and obviously we wish her all the best for the future, which I'm sure she'll be a huge success in going forward. Now, next up, we need to have a chat about the Women's Six Nations, and we'll start off with the first game of the weekend, which was the Red Roses versus Scotland up at the Hive in Scotland, and Ashley Barry, a fairly disappointing game at the end of the day. Not the result. The result was fine for England, as England supporters. But Maggie Alfonsi's come out and said, hasn't she, that actually the gulf is not getting any closer between these teams. And actually England, down to 14 players, another, indiscipline issue going on there. And they were quite simply a class above, weren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. Eight tries to no points, and we still had a red card in the middle of it as well. It's Maggie's right. It's not going to help grow the game when you get these one-sided blowouts. I mean, we've spoken about this before with rugby in general. It doesn't help when it's for. If it happens once or twice, you can kind of go, well, okay, well, that, sometimes that happens in rugby, and we'll probably get on to discussing Europe later on. But when it happens consistently and it's consistently so one-sided, it's not really going to help the game moving forward, because people are not going to bother watching, because it's over before it starts.
Well, absolutely, Matt. I mean, the disappointing thing there is almost that England's could win that game with bad indiscipline. It's not going to help them when they come up against a full fire in New Zealand. Or a full fire in Canada, perhaps. The teams that may be a little bit closer, because, familiarity, practice, you do good things in practice, you do them time and time and time again, but also by the same definition, you do bad things in games that begins to become a little bit difficult to bring back when you really need to.
It does. I mean, you see time and again when teams, almost get a bit complacent that they are winning games at a canter, it then goes a bit wrong a couple of weeks later. Maybe that's what we saw from Saracens beating a pub standard Harlequins and then getting absolutely hosed by Bordeaux. But it is a worry. And you could see towards the end of Simon Middleton's tenure with England what he was trying to do with his England team: put players under pressure, play a second or third player in a position just to try and give everyone something to play for and make sure that when those huge games came around the corner, they weren't blowing cold. But it is really tricky. But at the end of the day, it's the women's rugby across the board isn't professional. England have only been professional for 5 years, roughly. Not even that. And other teams are still massively playing catch-up. So you are going to get these score lines, and we do have to kind of ride it out and back some of the smaller nations towards getting forward. I mean, the only thing I do take a little bit of umbrage to is the use of the word integrity that Maggie Alfonsi put. I think the tournament still has integrity. Just because a team's winning it at a canter, it just means that they're the best team. But yeah, it's definitely as a spectacle. It will be a better tournament when there are more than the last deliberate game between England and France being the only one that could potentially decide things.
Well, yeah, I mean, the one thing that I wanted to take issue with, really, in particular, was the interview that was done with Lou Meadows afterwards as England's attack coach, when they said, are you concerned, Barry, with the amount of penalties you're giving away? And she basically turned around and went, no, because we want players to play on the edge. Well, I'm afraid that you can play on the edge and play within legality and not give away penalties. The best teams, the really, really, really best teams, will be on the edge, but be on the right side of that line. And that was slightly concerning to me, that comment.
There's playing on the edge, but there's also playing the conditions, the opponents, and of course the referee. You have to make sure that when you're constantly being penalised, that you make a change and you get the right side of the referee, because otherwise it is going to cost you a game. Particularly when you get to a tighter game, you can't give away that number of penalties in a tighter game.
No, absolutely not. Now the more concerning thing I think that came out of the weekend was that Wales again have had another shocking result, really. I mean, yeah, we said at the start Ireland have shown improvement, particularly in the last competition. That they won their division, as it were, and have shown improvement. But Wales have really taken a bit of a confidence hammering here, haven't they, Matt?
I have, yeah. I mean, to be honest, I think partly it does show what an absolute mess Irish women's rugby has been for the last couple of years, and actually how easy it's been to sort out, because they've got a lot of talented players. They've ousted someone towards the top of the IRFU, quite rightly, and brought in former England women's attack coach in Scott Bateman, and it's paid dividends already, really. So yeah, Ireland were good and they were much improved. But yeah, Wales, it's tricky to know what was going on. I mean, some of the mistakes that were being made in that game, particularly a couple of times letting the ball bounce, charge downs, passes being flung straight into touch. It just looked like the real basics had eluded them in that game. So it was a bit of a worry because they were sort of the next one after England that started to look at professional contracts. And yeah, they do seem to have actually gone backwards rather than forwards. But I don't know, we'll have to see for the rest of the tournament, really, won't we?
Yeah, absolutely, we will. I mean, that's the thing to say. Obviously, France, pretty comfortable against Italy in the game on Sunday. So, I mean, it's all getting towards that next big game for England France out in France at the end of the tournament. Obviously, once we've got past Ireland, which isn't a foregone conclusion. But shall we take a break there, and then we'll come back and discuss the men's rugby, particularly building up to the Gloucester game that's coming up at the end of this week.
Hi, this is Petrus Duplessis, and you are listening to the Fezcast.
This is the Fezcast.
Well, welcome back to the last part of this week's show, and we need to discuss the wider world of men's rugby, in particular the Champions Cup. but also obviously as well looking forward to the Gloucester game coming up on the weekend. We'll do the European Rugby First Champions Cup. And I mean, last week, myself and Duncan were bemoaning the fact that it's a bit of an unfair playing field. You know, the English teams are on the back foot straight away. And yet in the semi-finals of the big one, we've got Northampton Saints and we've got Queens with just one French team and one Irish team. Kind of puts a bit of a, I don't know, is this a false thing, Barry, going on at the moment, do you think? Or is it just showing how mad the world of men's rugby is?
I don't think it's a false thing. I think what it is, if you look at the results, so you look at our result against Harlequins, what was it, 3 weeks ago? And then you look at our result against Bordeaux and then Harlequins' result against Bordeaux. It doesn't make sense. But then I think if you look at it closer, I think you realise that perhaps the difference between winning and losing is such a small margin, and that it's just a little couple of percent here and there, and you know, a couple of players having a slightly off day and a couple of players having a slightly decent day, and I think that's probably what has more to do with it than the fact of it being complete and utter madness. I mean, complete and utter madness is probably probably expecting the Bulls to turn up in Northampton on a Saturday night, but I'm sure we'll get onto that as well.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? I mean, I've always been a critic of South African sides being in a European competition. I don't see the benefit of it. I think it just adds mileage and God knows what else. I mean, us going down to South Africa to play affected our ability to get out of the situation. And it's the same, you know, if you're a team that's having to go to South Africa, I just think it's daft and pointless and really isn't needed. And then when the Bulls come up here and basically, I know Jake White turned around and said, well, these were the guys who were playing 2-3 years ago. But yeah, they were the guys playing 2-3 years ago. They're not your current side, and you've devalued the competition, Matt.
Yeah, I do struggle with that, really. I mean, I can totally... Well, I can see why they're involved in the URC, because you can obviously play fixtures in blocks, you can go on little tours, and it does work like that. But yeah, expecting the Bulls to suddenly have a turnaround within 1 week and arrive in Northampton and play a decent game of rugby, you are asking quite a lot of them. But at the same time, yeah, they really shouldn't have gone about it in the way they did, picking the team that they did, because yeah, the tournament is quite devalued as a result. So I don't know, but it wasn't the worst result of the European knockout rugby, really, was it, for them? So yeah, I think the format has got to change, really, with South African sides in it, but I'm not the person to figure out how to actually do that.
No, absolutely not. And I mean, yeah, there's people who have paid an awful lot more money than we are to sort that out, but I just don't see the value of it. I haven't ever seen the value of it, and I'll continue to battle that one. But yeah, Queens against Bordeaux, a great result. Northampton again, you know, they kind of got a bit more of an easy ride than perhaps they should have expected. Exeter got shown up and taught a lesson second half in their game, that's for certain, didn't they, Barry?
Yeah, I mean, Toulouse were absolutely unplayable, particularly that second half. And Exeter were in it up until half time, but second half they just that was as one-sided a game as I've seen for a long time. Yeah,
absolutely. And then Leinster La Rochelle, Leinster getting a bit of revenge on Rog for 3 wins in recent ones, and their fans giving him a bit of disrespect, Matt, I think is fair to say as well. But, you know, that Leinster in the semi-final, and I mean, for all that we say about, you know, 2 English teams in the semi-final, really, Leinster at Croke Park, that's a big ask for Northampton. And going over to France for Quins, you know, doing that twice in one hit, you know, that's a big ask as well, isn't it, Matt?
It is. I mean, yeah, fair play to the 2 English sides that have got this far, particularly when we're talking about salary caps and the sort of relative squad sizes and things. I think for any English side to get into the semi-final just shows how well we can actually do competing. But yeah, 2 huge tests for 2 big teams. And how much is it going to affect their running for the league as well, which we'll talk about in a second? I mean, you know, in a way, having gone out to Bordeaux and us looking at the Premiership as the only thing that we're after. Having those two teams still involved in Europe potentially gives us just that little bit of an extra advantage, because I mean some of our players in that Bordeaux match looked absolutely knackered. So a couple of weeks off here and there in the run into the end of the season could really help us.
Indeed, absolutely. And of course, our opponents this weekend, Gloucester, got through their game in Europe in the Challenge Cup against Ospreys. I watched that game on Friday night, Barry. I wasn't really over impressed with either team, to be perfectly honest with you. Lots of mistakes. I think weather conditions, there was a bit of a howling gale, but Gloucester seemed very content just to go back to basics and kick the ball. And Ospreys, one occasion, did exploit a poor kick from Adam Hastings. But yeah, didn't really exploit it in the same way that I would hope if Gloucester play that way at StoneX, our back three in particular could exploit that, Barry.
Yeah, Gloucester seem to blow hot and cold, don't they? They're either quite decent or they're fairly poor. I mean, I went to our game at their place this year, and they were brilliant for 20 minutes, and then were absolutely awful, and that just seemed to sum them up at the moment.
Yeah, I mean they have had a good couple of results. I mean, away at Leicester is a big result for them, but Leicester ain't really the side that perhaps they were 2 years ago, Matt. But I mean, where do you see the dangers from Gloucester?
I always see a danger from Gloucester, to be honest. I think we always have a bit of an issue against them for some reason, but they'll be gritty, I think, is probably the best way to put it. And we have struggled to break them down in the past, and that has been a bit of an issue for us all season, is actually breaking sides down, breaking the line and scoring tries. So I think it's probably the most amateur basic thing I could possibly say, but I think the main worry is scoring points, which you actually have to do more than the opposition to win a game. There's the insight from me. But it'd be interesting to see what our selection's like as well, given a couple of weeks off. And having just realised as well, this is the first time we're recording since Alex Lewington announced he's retiring. So
yeah, well, I was going to come on to that, and I think we will do that at the end, because I am hoping that we're going to get Louis on at some point to have a discussion as well as a few other guys. But yeah, I mean, it's an interesting one, isn't it? I mean, I think there has always been a danger this season, perhaps not happened in other seasons, Barry, where teams can drag us. And this is going to sound terribly arrogant and terribly unhumble, as it were, but this season teams have been able to drag us down to their level a lot more effectively than perhaps in other seasons on occasion.
It's been a funny season for us. I mean, we started with players missing because of the World Cup, and we didn't really sort of get going until that Gloucester away game, ironically, which was our first win. First win outside the Premiership Cup, anyway. And then we kind of got going, and then we stuttered again, and we had all the stuff over Faz and isn't he, and that's kind of settled down now. But now, well, certainly the last game against Bordeaux, we had no Owen Farrell, and again we paid a little bit of a price for not really having a recognised 10 as a backup, or at least not one that they seem to want to pick very much. So it's for us, it's been a weird season. It could go either way. I mean, 4 games to go now, 2 home, 2 away, and we need to win, I reckon, about 3 of them. So it's really important that we do play well on Saturday. Hopefully we won't kick the ball away too much and try and put them under some pressure, because I think if we do that, if we keep the ball in hand and put them under pressure, they will make mistakes, and I think we can profit from that.
Absolutely, I agree with you there. Now, Matt, you did mention it, and I think we should finish this week's Fezcast by paying tribute to a lad who's retiring, only 32 years old, and been having a really great season this season. He's one of the top try scorers in the Premiership, if not the top try scorer. But Alex Lewington's decided enough's enough and time to get out. And I think, a lot of parallels perhaps with the previous Saracens player who retired, we thought, a lot earlier than perhaps he could have done, when George Cruz. But obviously he's got priorities, and he's been a ambassador for Loose Heads, so he obviously is aware of the mental health issues in the game and everything. Always seemed to have his head screwed on, and never really got the recognition he deserved. I mean, I remember when Jack Zorab came on, Matt, if you remember, and Jack was pumping him for a Bolter for the last British Lions tour. And the fact that he never got full England international honours is a bit of a crying shame, really.
First season or two, he had an absolute stormer, really, didn't he? And he was talked about as a potential England player on the wing. We know who was head coach at the time and what his selection criteria. Well, we don't know what his selection criteria was. We've still not figured it out, have we? But there were a lot of England wingers at the time, and he was at the end of quite a large queue, I think. But to our benefit, because he's been one of the most consistent players we've had across the last 5 or 6 seasons. And yeah, maybe he's going out a little bit early. I'm led to believe he's sort of got a good career opportunity that he was weighing up and can't pass up. So we'll have to see exactly what happens there with Louis. But we wish him all the best, because he's been a fantastic servant to the club in actually a relatively short space of time since he joined us from London Irish. And just the other bit, the bizarre thing is the rumours are out there that we're going to replace him with someone. He's retiring. We're going to replace him with someone that's 2 or 3 years older than him. So that's the way rugby is sometimes, isn't it?
Yeah, it's Johnny May, isn't it? And I'm a little bit concerned if that is true. But then again, saying that, we've had those situations in the past where an older player's come in and has revitalised their career and given us a good 2 or 3 seasons, more than perhaps people thought they would do. But yeah, Barry, the one thing you've got to say about Alex Newington is that every club needs an Alex Newington, don't they? They need that club man who, perhaps if he's not getting the international recognition, doesn't affect him playing at his best every week in a Saracen shirt, knowing that's going to be the pinnacle of his career.
Never let us down. I mean, obviously, he's had some games where he's played better than others, but that's the case for everyone. Never gets the wrong side of the referee. Never causes us any problems whatsoever. And obviously, we don't know what his future career options are, but whatever it is, we wish him all the best. And Alex, if you are listening, you'll always be welcome at the Stonex, mate.
Absolutely. Well, look, gentlemen, I think we've done that one proud there. And as I say, well done, Alex, on a great career. And let's just hope he goes out on a high at the end of the season, in the same way as another stalwart who perhaps should have got England recognition last year in Jackson Ray. But we'll say thank you to everybody for listening in to this week's Fezcast. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope we haven't missed anything, and I'm sure people will tell us if we haven't. Fair dues if you do. It's good to get feedback regardless anyway. That's what I say. So thank you for that. And thank you, Barry. Thank you, Matt, for your time. And thank you, everybody, for listening in to the Fezcast. And we'll see you next week on, I think it's the 24th, isn't it? So there we go. Yeah. Getting towards the business end of the season for certain.
This is the Fezcast.